Hey, I'm Jeremy. Welcome back to Rugby Informer. We're just taking a look at the Springbok and All Black game that went down at Ellis Park in Johannesburg that ended up being a very tight 4-point encounter, ending in 31-27 to the Boks. First and foremost, just from a spectator perspective, I think that was the best test rugby you're going to see in the world currently. You got two of the best sides in the world going head-to-head with one another and bringing out the best in each other, no matter whether one of the sides is going through a purple patch or the other side's going through a rebuilding phase. The Springboks and All Blacks just have a tendency to bring out the absolute best in each other, raise the level of intensity from 10 to 12, and force each player to showcase their individual skills, which is great to see. There's no doubt that that was the most highly anticipated game of the year when you look at the whole test fixture season, and that game lived up to the hype. Yeah, and the Springboks left it very late to put the nail in the coffin of the All Blacks, but they seem to have become a team in recent times, particularly since the latter stages of the Rugby World Cup, where they are able to go 80 minutes, 82 minutes, 83 minutes, and ironically the All Blacks used to be that team. They were the ones who, even when the Springboks were up a couple points in the 75th minute, you just had this feeling that the All Blacks were always going to get a counter-attack try or have a breakaway or something was going to fall in their favour in order to win these tight test matches. We've seen them do it numerous times where they basically looked like it was all said and done for them. And the Springboks have kind of created that belief in their system and with their fans, even when they're kind of trailing and the momentum seems against them. After that tight 1-point win over France in the Rugby World Cup and against the All Blacks in the final, they just seem to have this belief in them that they can keep playing until an opportunity presents itself. So seeing that's kind of like the missing ingredient that what the Springboks were needing was belief, and watching a recent interview on Behind the Ruck, which is a fantastic podcast by Jean de Jong and Rudy Page, check it out. They interviewed Tony Brown and he kept saying the thing he's trying to instill in the Springbok squad is belief. And while some people might think it sounds like one of those intangible fluffy things, belief goes a long way. You see the Springbok squad looking calm, collected, even when they're trailing a couple points and the clock's ticking down. I think we saw a little bit of that old Springboks who tend to dip their heads, in that second test against Ireland. When, the Irish had put a try or two on them, it kind of just seemed like the heads dropped. And even though there was an opportunity to win that game, the Springboks kind of seemed to throw in the towel at that point. And it seems like they've just been reminded this Rugby Championship that they are the world champions, that they do have the ability to go the distance and play 85-minute rugby if need be, and win when things are not looking their way, or use the skills that they have available and the set-piece dominance that they've got. They don't need to rely on an intercept or something like that. They have the ability to put pressure at the breakdown, get penalties, kick for the corners, do mauls, whatever needs to be done. They seem to have the ability to do it. So that was an incredible South African performance. It wasn't perfect, but seeing them do that against a spirited All Black side, giving credit where it's due, the All Blacks were fantastic. I mean, they came out of the blocks with a maul try, giving the Springboks a taste of their own medicine, and also showing their classic counter-attacking rugby. Caleb Clark scored a fantastic try toward the end of the first half, off a turnover ball. All Blacks picked it up, went through their hands all the way down to the wing, and Caleb Clark used his speed and power to get on the outside and score. It was one of the blips on the Springboks map, just looking at that particular play. That turnover wasn't expected. I think it was Ben Jason Dixon who perhaps knocked it on or had the ball stripped. Cody Taylor had a little bit of a nice jinking run. And then suddenly the ball started going through the hands of the All Blacks. You could see they were in the Springbok half. They believed that they could score from that position. And the Springbok defense, funny enough, was actually looking all right. They had more than enough players to make man-on-man tackles and squash that All Black attack. But Jesse Creel rushed out of the line, missed his man. Looked like he was kind of trying to close down a pass, or he missed his man. And seeing the chaos that was ensuing, I think Colby panicked too, and he ran and kind of leapt for a intercept or to spoil a pass, and the All Blacks spotted it and threw a dummy and went straight through, putting De Allender and Fussy on the back foot, who had to stick to their men and eventually gave Caleb Clark the outside. So A small error, it's not necessary for the Springboks to do that when they're panicking. Rather just backpedal and concede territory even if need be, and give the covering defense time to come across if there's an extra man. I think the rush defense is fantastic and it works when it's structured and organized. But when a team's counter-attacking like that and you're a little bit at 6s and 7s, it's better to just trust the guys on your inside and outside, backpedal, let them reset and make those tackles. Rushing to try spoil a 4-man overlap is only going to result in one thing. So one of the little hiccups of the Springboks, but not a biggie. I mean, they ended up with the win anyway, but those are moments that the Springboks can probably just squash quite easily if they don't panic. They've got the tacklers, they've got the speed in their back line to get to those attackers getting the outside of them. Maybe just a little bit of over-eagerness, a little bit of excitement from them, which is not a bad thing, but it's easier to just rather be calm and collected in those moments, even when it looks like it's panic stations. And a little shout out to Sasha Feinberg-Mngomezulu. I thought he had a really good game in fly half. He was fantastic on attack. His tactical kicking was really good. He was enjoying that back and forth ping pong game with Barrett and McKenzie, and often getting the better of them, putting through some nice kicks and finding space behind the wingers. He was also really tested on defense. The All Blacks seemed to be targeting him off the back of the scrum, and he was making some big tackles on some big men. So Feinberg again ticks the box that he deserves to be there and shows that he can be a starter in these bigger matches. One interesting thing, he did look like he was losing his cool a little bit. He seems to have been a very calm and collected youngster, very cool under pressure, doesn't show too much emotion, but you can see he was getting a little bit frustrated at the linesman, at the ref, some infringements from the All Blacks, and seemed to be having a go at the linesman not giving him the distance he thought he got on the kicks and things like that, which is fine. A bit of fire in the belly of a Springbok fly half is not a bad thing at all, but I guess he also just needs to keep his head cool, because he seems to perform well when he's calm, relaxed, and just trusting his skill set. And some other standout performers, Apelele Fassi, again, I sound like a broken record, but this guy is just elevating his game week on week on week. He showed some incredible bravery in the air. His technique for taking high balls under pressure is amazing. And when he did have the opportunity to counter-attack, he was finding a little bit of space, beating one or two defenders, and then later in the game, with that perfectly placed up and under from him, that he regathered, found some additional space and put another little kick through for Colby, who wasn't able to scoop it up. I mean, that was incredible. That's the type of skill you just can't coach. You can teach maybe the techniques of all these individual moments of regathering the high ball, your kick chase, but the moment to kick, regather, and put through a kick like that is incredible. And Fassi is able to also look up and scan and see who's in front of him and make a decisive call about what to do, and if there's an opportunity for him to beat a player in front of him. Late in the game, he also found some space on the outside, got outside of his man, threw a dummy, went through. It did look like Andre Pollard was on his inside to put him away for a try, but he opted for a kick through for Colby again, that he wasn't able to regather. But the Springboks have found a really dynamic, interesting fullback with Fassi, and on top of that, he made, I think, 2 or 3 try-saving tackles in the opening 2 or 3 minutes. The All Blacks were full on the attack, throwing some big men out wide, and he completely stopped 2 or 3 tries that looked basically guaranteed for the All Blacks at that point. So he's brave in the tackle. He's not afraid to put his shoulder in and put his body on the line. And I think Fassi's really shown that he is the next incumbent fullback for the Springboks. And again, even though the Springboks starting lineup and kind of plans throughout the game were disrupted with injuries and some unforeseen things happening to players, the bomb squad, no matter what the combination of them are, who the players are, they just add so much impact in that latter stages of the game. Kwagga Smith came on, I think made 2 decisive turnovers that swung the game completely in the Springboks' favor, and then managed to even score a try for himself. I mean, I think for someone to do that within 10 minutes is incredible, and just shows he is worth his weight in gold and is able to do more in an eighth of a rugby game than some guys are able to do the whole game. So I think Kwagga is the most underrated player on the planet. He probably brings a lot of calm and confidence to the other players when they see him running on. They just know they're about to get this injection of enthusiasm, excitement, aggression, physicality. smart, and he completely swings the breakdown in the favor of the Boks. Amazing performance by Kwagga. He can add it to his list of game-winning moments that he's produced in World Cups and recent tournaments. He is just invaluable to the Springboks at the moment. Elrich Lowe was a huge surprise. He came on, he was beating players, stepping, throwing himself into tackles. He is also an absolute enforcer and such a valuable key member of this bomb squad. He can kind of slot into a Peter Steph du Toit, this aggressive enforcer, tackling machine, but he's also dynamic and starting to look like he's linking up with the backs nicely and has some ball playing skills himself that it was great to see, and we hope to see a lot more of that. Malcolm Marx came on, the lineouts improved dramatically. The lineouts were an area where the Springboks seemed to be struggling a little bit in the first half. His throws are accurate, pinpoint, and he gets control of that ball when it gets moving and is able to keep the ball secure and make sure that he's attached so that they don't give away a silly penalty in a 5-meter line out, which is a fantastic opportunity for the Springboks to score. And Grant Williams coming on and scoring basically a match-winning try. He was really, really good. He was feisty. He was putting up a bit of a niggle against Cortez Ratama, who was also looked fantastic for the All Blacks, and he's starting to get some caps under his belt. The Springboks are quite spoilt at the moment with their number 9s. They've got Faf de Klerk still waiting in the wing, Jaden Hendricks, these guys who have World Cup and Rugby Championship experience. But Grant Williams is really going to make it difficult for them to grab their jersey back. The contentious issues that people obviously talk about this week, the Bongi try, which was the first try scored by the Springboks. He knocked it on. I mean, he didn't have control of the ball when he went to ground. I've seen better controlled tries that have been disallowed for things like that. So I think anyone with 2 eyes can see that unfortunately he did lose control of the ball. I think it was Jordy Barrett who was sliding in and making kind of a last-ditch effort tackle, and he managed to dislodge the ball. Bonambi kind of did put some pressure on it going down, but it left his hands and he lost control of it. Unfortunately, it's the TMO's fault who missed it and didn't flag it to the referee, but it is what it is, as we say every week, and the All Blacks are going to have to live with that one. It wasn't fair. It should have been disallowed, but it unfortunately happened. But all in all, great game, an amazing test match, and we can't wait to see what happens down in Cape Town. The All Blacks have shown that they love to bounce back from a defeat. Look what they did to Argentina after their first loss. So I think you're going to see a much more enthused, much more motivated All Black side that know that this is their last shot to really give it to the Boks. The Springboks have an opportunity to essentially end the All Blacks' reign in this Rugby Championship with a great win in Cape Town. So we'll take another look at that game closer to the end of the week as the teams come out. But for the meantime, thanks for watching. Please leave your comments below. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when new videos come out. Let us know what you think of the game. Let us know your opinions down below if you think maybe some of the cards were harsh or some of the players who I didn't mention deserve a shout out. And we'll see you in the next one.